Hello and welcome to this demo of our consulting mega model. This is the model on which we base all of our reports that we publish as part of our consulting market program. It's the model that underpins our understanding of the size and shape of the global consulting market. A model, the size and scale of this is a pretty big, pretty complex thing, as I'm sure you can imagine. So I'm not going to attempt to show you everything that this platform is capable of doing today. I just want to give you a little bit of a taste for it so you can get some idea of what's available to you. I should also say at this point, before you get too excited, that what I'm showing you is dummy data. So although the relationship between different countries and regions is approximately right, the data is in fact dummy data, so don't get too excited in that respect. So what we're looking at here in this first view is the market by region and by year, as defined by our primary axes selectors on the left-hand side there. So I can see the major regions of the world, and I can see a number of things across to the right from there. Firstly, I can see revenue for 2013. I can see growth in 2014, and I can see revenue figure based on that for 2014. That's as much as we know for definite so far, and that's why that is shown in black text. The point at which we're confident those are published numbers. Beyond that, we're into forecast territory. So what we show you here is forecast growth for 2015 and revenue figures based on that forecast. And then we do the same thing for 2016 and 2017. Now, bear in mind that obviously the longer we project into the future here, the greater the uncertainty about those numbers. So that by the time we're talking about 2017, this frankly is our best guess. This is what we think is likely to happen. Again, don't worry too much about the actual numbers there. This is just dummy data for now. But it is important, even when this is loaded with live data, that you appreciate 2017 is some way out into the future where forecasting is concerned, and very hard to predict with any great degree of accuracy. 2015 we can certainly be very confident about, given that we're pretty deep into it already. So that's the kind of the first view of this. Let's start to kind of pick up on the few things that you can do here. Let's have a look at 2014 data and compare one region to the next by clicking on this chart icon here, and that just shows you revenues for each of those regions in 2014. Alternatively, we can see that by market share. So same view, but just overall share of the market. So we can see North America there on 50%. If I was to click into one of those, let's do Asia Pacific, for example, I would then see the market share of Asia Pacific for each of the countries within Asia Pacific. And that's a general principle here, by the way, is that we can click into the chart. So similarly, if I'm looking at this view, I can click on Asia Pacific, and I can see that broken down. So generally speaking, whenever you're looking at a chart, until you get to the sort of base level, you can do some clicking on it to see a greater degree of detail. Let's shut that down for now. We can come into this a different way if we expand one of these regions, for example. So let's do that with Asia Pacific again. So if I click on the plus icon there, I'm now expanding the data set so that I'm looking at the whole of the Asia Pacific region. Exactly the same data that you're looking at. So revenue for 2013, growth for 2014, revenue for 2014, etc., etc. Now let's just talk about a few more things to do with that, and we start here with India as an example. Over here I can click on a chart icon and see the trend for India alone. I might want to compare that then with Japan, for example, and I could start by looking at those two things alongside each other, so I can see how growth in Japan and India compares. That's one way of looking at things. I may want to actually combine those two into a single view, and I can do this by hitting my space bar, which then allows me to select multiple things within this table. I'm now going to select India and Japan, and I'm going to press the enter button, and I can see there India and Japan compared with each other in the same chart. So we can do that with any number of countries. I'll just shut that down. I'd like to show you one more thing while we're in this view, and that's that if I double click on India here, I'm going to have the chance to see the Indian consulting market broken down by service, subsector, or type of firm. We don't show through this platform data about individual firms, but we do show data for firm types. Let's try subsector as an example. So I'm going to click on that, and the system's just going to go off and fetch the data. And there we can see the Indian consulting market broken down by subsector, so quite a lot of them. The data shown in exactly the same way as you're by now used to, and with the same functionality that I showed you before. So that's sort of India by subsector. Let me just close out of that again. So that sort of gives you a pretty neat overview, I think, of the data based on this view. Now, the important thing to say here is that I have defined this very specific view where I'm seeing regions in the rows, and I'm seeing years in the columns. I can change that. So I could start to decide that actually what I'm interested in is sectors. I want to see sectors in rows, and in the columns I'd like to see firm types, for example. And then I can load that as a different market. And that's just going to show me, again, very similar sort of view, but with the data change, so that now I'm looking at sectors in the rows, and I'm looking at firm types in the columns. I can do exactly the same things there as I could do with the other view. So I won't trouble you right now by going down into the detail of that. But I'm sure that gives you a pretty good idea for it. There are all sorts of other ways to get to the data that you need, including by this rather handy regions and countries guide, which enables you to actually start going straight into the country that you want. So quite a number of different ways to get to the data you want, but cutting it just about any way is okay. I hope that's helpful. I'm sure it's raised as many questions as it's provided answers, and if you'd like to direct those to us, we'd be delighted to hear from you. So please get in touch with us, and we'll answer everything we can. But for now, I hope that's been a bit of a help, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.